We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Tangi Cousins. I work with Foreclosures and Probates Daily. We are a nationwide lead provider. I've been with Foreclosures Daily since 2004. We've been in business for almost 20 years. So going on 18 years, 17, 18 years now. So we're hitting the 20-year milestone pretty soon. We help investors, realtors, and attorneys grow their business and increase their revenues, basically. This is my email on the bottom of the screen. So if you forget to ask me something during the webinar, please don't hesitate to email me. Just go ahead and send me an email, Tangi@ForeclosuresDaily.com. You can take a picture of the email now if you'd like. Don't forget the E and foreclosures and the S on the end. A lot of people do, believe it or not. So if you forget to ask me questions during the webinar, you can email me. Now, who we are. We are a nationwide lead provider. We provide leads to investors, realtors, attorneys, and just your basic first-time home buyer. We have about 25 different types of leads we offer. And since 2004, we've been the internet's #1 destination for the most detailed, timely information. Here's how we're different. A lot of companies are quarterly or monthly. We are actually weekly and fresh. Most of our data is weekly and fresh. All of our leads are available every single week, and they're all exportable to an XLS or a CSV spreadsheet. They're either going to be daily, weekly. I put my monthly, but we're actually not even doing the monthly leads anymore. Everything is actually pretty much weekly. All of our information, most of our information will have property appraisers data attached, like bedrooms, baths, type of property. We get as much property information as we possibly can. Most companies that we found are going to be quarterly or monthly, and they're not farming for real estate. It's really important that you understand that. Not farming for real estate. That means 300 people file probate in 1 week. Maybe only 15 will have property. You do not want to market to 300 people who file probate when only 15 actually have real estate. So that's a big no-no. You'd be marketing to 7 to 10% of the people. Only 7 to 10% of the people that file probate or go through divorce actually own real estate. So you don't want to market to hundreds of unnecessary people for no reason. That's extra money you'd be wasting on skip tracing, extra money you'd be wasting on mailing and everything. So we understand that the importance of having fresh data farmed weekly and fresh. Here's some of the leads that we do offer here at Foreclosures Daily. And we're going to be offering some specials in the end. So make sure you stay on till the end for our special prices. We got some stuff we're going to be giving away, some bonuses and stuff like that, special things for buying from Foreclosures Daily. If you buy any of these lead types by Friday, we are going to be giving away some special stuff. You do get a free county if you buy by Friday, just so you know. But we're going to be going over some special prices in the end. We have things like probate, pre-probate, inheritance, code violation, eviction, divorce. And those are weekly and fresh, and they're all farmed for real estate. When you work those types of leads, guys, you're going to get a small group of people, but you're going to yield a much higher return because you're actually targeting people who want to sell versus people who don't. For example, probate and pre-probate by far, honestly, some of the best leads you'll ever get. They have a lot of equity. They typically don't mind taking a discount, and they're extremely motivated to sell their property. You know, people tend to be older when they lose their parents. So they're usually established in their own life at that age. So they usually don't want the property. They usually want to sell the property. So you typically get these properties for deeply discounted rates. I mean, I have people making some of their biggest spreads on probates and pre-probates, guys. Now, when you work these types of leads, you never get more than 25 leads a week when it comes to probate, pre-probate, inheritance, code violation, eviction, and divorce. When you work these types of leads, you are going to work a small group of people, but you're going to yield a higher return. A lot of people think that there's hundreds of people that will file probate, and there are, but only small percentages of them people are going to own property. That's why you just get a small amount of the list. So you don't have to work as many to yield as much as returns as you do when you work thousands and thousands and thousands of leads by number, by volume. You know, you're having to work thousands of them to get the big percentages of them to work for you. When you work probates, you're going to get a better percentage rate. Honestly, everything's going to be better. The revenue you generate is going to be better. The spreads are going to be way bigger. I mean, it's just a better lead source in general when you're targeting people who typically want to sell versus people who don't. Here's some of the bonuses that you do get when you buy leads from Foreclosures Daily is we'll give you access to all of my postcards and my letters that I recommend and a 6-step mailing campaign and stuff. These postcards are really good, guys. A lot of other companies charge like $1 for these postcards. We actually got this company to charge only 42 cents with postage to send these postcards for you. The national average response rate to any marketing like this is like 0.5 to 1.5%. I actually have people getting 3, 5, 10, and 15% response rates with our postcards. So it's pretty big, guys. I mean, you know, send out a postcard saying like, hey, is this your house? Are you selling this? You know, it's a real catchy postcard. It's curiosity killed the cat type of thing. People just kind of want to know, like, hey, where'd you get the picture of my house? You know, yeah, actually, this is my house and I'm selling it now, you know. So, I mean, it's a real good postcard. And this company here, with our special link, will get you 38 to 42 cents with postage for sending postcards through them with our postcards and letters. Here's a letter that we recommend. It's a really good letter. It's handwritten by the same company. And what they'll do is they'll use like a handwritten font. And most companies charge like $1.10 for this. These guys are only charging like 64 cents. And the minimum on the postcards only 50, and the minimum on the letters only 200. It was way higher, but we got them to go down for you guys. They're literally only charging 64 cents to do the handwritten look on the letter with the font that looks hand wrote. So it's really, really, really nice, guys. And it's real legible too. You know, you can really read it. Now, here's some of the bonuses that you will receive from Foreclosures Daily when you buy the leads. We like to call this a toolbox full of bonuses, and it's a vehicle to help you drive this forward so that you can come to closing and make some money with Foreclosures Daily. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, guys, you're not going to renew your account with us if you're not making money. So we really put our best foot forward to make sure that you make a lot of money using our leads. One of the things that we do give you access to is a 6-step mailing campaign, teaching you how often to mail, you know, the spacing in between, how many times to mail, what to mail first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. We also offer you phone scripts. We give you phone scripts so that you know how to speak to the people who answer the decedent's phone if you're working pre-probate and probate. And we also teach you how to work, you know, how to talk to the people who answer the family members' phones. It's a real, very generic phone call because, you know, you never want to talk about their situation when you're marketing to them. And I actually have a webinar. If you go to our YouTube, ForeclosuresDaily.com, and you subscribe, you can watch my webinar. It's called Innovative Investors Webinar, or the last webinar I did was just a few months back. Click on my webinar where I'm actually the speaker for an hour and a half, and it teaches you more into depth about how you market to people and unique marketing techniques. We also give you a probate book. This is really cool, guys. It's called Probate Real Estate Sales 101. And the author is Kevin Sales. And the owner and I actually know the author. So we did a webinar with him, Kevin Sales, S-A-Y-L-E-S. We did a webinar with him teaching the 7 ways to make money with probate real estate investing. And the owner liked him so much that he mails you a book. Our marketing director, Joe, is going to mail you a book every single time anytime you buy leads from Foreclosures Daily, we're going to mail you this book, teaching you Probate Real Estate Sales 101. So we did a webinar with him teaching the 7 ways to make money with probate real estate investing because we do know him personally. So you do get that book. You also get the webinar. You get my webinar teaching unique marketing techniques. We give you special links to receive reduced skip tracing costs too. Like we have this one company we work with, and they'll skip trace your list for you. And what's really cool about them is they'll give you some surrounding family members or absolutely what they feel to be the most likely next of kin. So we have a lot of good bonuses that we do give you guys just for buying leads through Foreclosures Daily. And real quick, because we have a couple of quick minutes I can talk before I turn this over to our speaker. I want to tell you the difference between probate and pre-probate. A probate basically means that they filed probate last week. We verified there's real estate attached, and then we give the lead to you 1 week later. The benefit of using a probate lead is not, you know, obviously if they've already filed probate, so they may be more closer to making a decision, right? But the benefit of using a pre-probate is not only will you be first at the door because it's 1 week after the death, but we verify there's real estate attached. But if they inherit the property via a trust, you could buy now, no lines, no waiting. And what's cool about Al is tonight, he's actually going to teach you. I'm going to stop my screen share, but Al's going to start sharing his screen here. Let's see. Al's actually going to teach you that he can do the probates for you in 5 to 14 days in most areas. He actually did one of my ladies' probates in 5 days. So it's like unheard of. So while Al's sharing his screen, I want to talk about him. Al Nicoletti's been a probate real estate attorney for 5 years. He's an absolute rock star. He's an internet sensation, you guys. And he waits. What's really good about Al is he waits until closing to get his funds from you. So this is so cool for the investors because you can work pre-probate and Al will help you get the probate done in 5 to 14 days if you're in Florida. If you're not in Florida, he knows a lot of attorneys on a nationwide basis here and there that will actually help do the same thing. So we totally recommend working probate and pre-probates. One is not better than the other. They're both equally good. And we do recommend working both because it's called striking the iron while it's hot. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Al Nicoletti. the probate sensation, internet sensation, data guy. He's been working with us for years. Hey, Al, what's going on?
Hey, Tangi, I love the introduction. Thanks so much for that. Internet sensation. I love that one.
Yeah.
Because of all the walk and talk videos that I've been doing all over the place. So love being here. Love it, love it, love it. Love ForeclosuresDaily.com and what you are all able to do.
Well, we thank you, Al, for taking time out to be on our webinar tonight. And I was going to say, I'm going to let you take the floor. Now, Al, you can choose how long you want to speak, but we do need to be done, by 7:15 or so. We like to open it up to Q&A by 7:15. So just let me know when you're ready. If you start getting, into it a little too long, I'll pop my head in and you'll know that we're ready to do Q&A soon. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make sure I have the timer in my head because there's a lot of jam-packed info.
I'll just come on with a double Jeopardy clock.
You got it. You got it.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you within the hour. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the ForeclosuresDaily.com, the Silver Tsunami, preparing for the probate tidal wave and how to crush the probate market. My name is Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida. I go anywhere in Florida, from Key West to Pensacola, Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, anywhere in Florida. I love the probate niche. I love probate because it's coming up. It's hot. It's the next big thing. It's coming, and it's here now. So we're going to dive deep. I got so much information in my PowerPoint. I got so much stuff that I'm going to make sure we get through it. So we'll dive in. You have my contact info on the bottom there. Make sure you take your picture with your phone. It's right there. So let me get to the next slide. Find my website. My website is www.alnicoletti.com. It talks about my practice areas. You see me smiling all over the website. And also make sure you check it out. It talks about everything I have there, all the pictures, and find me on all the social networks. I'm everywhere. I'm on Facebook. That's the link for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. I got videos that are coming out all the time, every week. I got the podcast. I got webinars that are posted on there. Find me everywhere. Tons of micro content and great content, not just things on the podcast, but things that are talking about probate, partitions, quiet title, the weird and the different. But of course, I got the show it's pumping out all the time. So check out the channel. If you're on the internet right now, before we dive in, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the notification button, friend me on Facebook. Go ahead, hit connect. I have a business page and a personal page. So make sure you check it out and follow me on Instagram. And of course, check out my podcast, the show, the Al Nicoletti Show, which is Wednesdays at 8 p.m. I go live, except it's not Wednesday at 8 p.m. tomorrow, but I go live and I have a show. I bring amazing guests on my show. Tomorrow ends up being Lee Carney, which is going to be crazy because we're going to talk about the top 5 strategies you can do today. You can do today to kill and conquer your deals and make it happen in your markets, especially if you're in Florida. But make sure you check out the show. Tons of episodes and guests on my show. So check it out. And of course, I'm a lawyer. I got to have a disclaimer. So this PowerPoint presentation does not provide legal advice, nor does it provide any attorney-client relationship. The matters discussed in this PowerPoint presentation are for informational and educational purposes only. Boom, we got that over with. We're rolling. So I want to make sure, drop your comments. I can't see them. I'm not going to pull them up until the end when Tangi comes back on the screen. But drop your stories, drop your comments, drop your questions. I'm only in Florida. I'm sure people will ask things in other states, but share your stories. Everybody's had nightmares, successes, more nightmares than successes with probate because everybody hears it takes like 6, 12, 2 years, 6 months, 12 months. So make sure you drop your comments. We'll get to it at the end. But today, the key points of what we're going to cover today. I'm not getting into any of the other stuff like partition and quiet title. We are going to dive deep on probate. And the thing that's amazing about probate is you don't have to be an expert in any of this. You don't have to know keywords. You don't have to know all the lingo. You don't have to know what all the petitions for summary, petitions for formal, inventory, accounting. That's what's beautiful about it. And like Tangi was talking about before, pre-probate is a fantastic market, which we'll dive in just a second. But probate, you don't have to know everything. All these people that talk about the words and the definitions don't have to know it. You don't have to even have a designation like a CPRES designation. You have to know just enough. That's what I cover, and we'll dive in on all that. But that's a big thing for people to not feel like they have to know everything. Just get the basics down, because at the end of the day, probate real estate is just another real estate transaction with a puzzle. And if we can all figure out the puzzle and what's happening, the deal could get done. So make sure you don't try to learn and memorize everything, and don't go online and look up like WebMD and all the terms and definitions and think you have to know everything. You don't. So why is this market so crazy? Like, why is it the silver tsunami, right? We're coming upon that slide. The pre-probate market, the market where properties are just sitting around, where probate has never been done, is unbelievable, especially in the state of Florida. There are tons of pre-probate opportunities, tax delinquencies, pre-foreclosures. A lot of the leads that the ForeclosuresDaily.com team has, just tons of untouched properties, tons of things that are waiting for the picking, and they're waiting for the right pitch, right? So the idea with probate and pre-probate is a lot of these people, they feel helpless. They have no help. Nobody's there to help figure out what their issue is. And if you can come with the confidence of learning just enough and bringing just enough info to them, they could go to you. They could go to you. And the amount that are sitting out there, that's why I have 1 week, 8 months, 10 to 30 years old. There's properties that have been sitting for 30 years where probate has never been done in Florida. So if you think that these opportunities are not around, think again. They're everywhere, all of this stuff. And they're highly motivated too. That's why we love probate, and especially the pre-probates, because they haven't been done, right? They can be incredible margins if you find the right deals. There's investors out there that talk about how you could make $30,000 to $50,000 on assignment fees with just probate deals alone. So know that they're highly motivated and that it's a gold mine market that's waiting to be touched, and it's untapped right now. They're waiting for the right pitch, and you can do it today. You can make those items and get everything in order today to make it happen for yourself tomorrow. So what's the silver tsunami, right? Why did I call it the silver tsunami for this whole thing? Because we are coming upon the greatest transfer of wealth in America, with so many baby boomers that owned real estate. They died, and now they have heirs, they have kids, they have so many either assets, property, whatever it is. And now is the time when they hit 60, 70 years old, and especially in Florida, especially with the pandemic, everybody moved from California to Texas, or California to Texas, and then Florida, because they wanted to get away from all the areas for the pandemic. And now a lot of people moved to Florida. So more people are in Florida than ever. More people are coming here to retire than ever. And it's a huge market, and it's happening not just in Florida, but all over the United States. So I always put on these PowerPoints that you got to get ready for the 2020, the 2030s, and the 2040s, the era when the baby boomers are shifting into that higher age era. And now they all own property, because back in the 70s, they bought real estate. They didn't have the IRAs and the Roths and all that investing back then. They invested in real estate, and some of them put it in trust, and many of them didn't put it in trust. And all of those properties now are ripe for the picking, because so many own it in Florida, and that's called the silver tsunami. The rush of all of these potential probates in a real estate market that is ripe for the picking, that is going to happen. That's why it's such a big push for me now, because I see what's happening. And that's what my hope is that you see this as well, that this is a big real estate niche that you can get into. This is why ForeclosuresDaily.com does this so much, because they know it's going to be a huge niche. That's why they have the pre-foreclosures too. That's a great niche with pre-foreclosures, but you can find probates in those as well. It's a huge niche, because with a foreclosure, they forgot to pay, they can't pay, they're dead. So that's the idea, is that the silver tsunami is here. This rush of people that have property, they own it, they die, and there's heirs is upon us. And that is that rush of the wave. So you'll see the baby boomers, a huge flood of housing is going to happen. Millions of homes is going to come on the market. There's going to be more inventory. It's hard to believe, because there's not a whole lot of inventory right now. That's probably at the lowest it's ever been. Everybody's probably shaking their head. Yes, it's probably the lowest it's ever been. But that market's going to shift, right? I'm going to show you some stats. But the question is, are you going to be ready to bring that confidence? Are you going to be ready to bring that that niche, that pitch that you understand that you can bring to these people and say, look, we can help solve the problem. We make it easy. We make it simple. We'll figure it out. And if it's, of course, it's complicated, we really got to see what's going on. But you'll be there and you'll learn. You're here tonight, so you know what's going on. So these are the stats. I've had put this up here before. These show what the baby boomer era is going to be like come 2027 and 2037. And if you look at 2037, you'll see Tampa alone, baby boomers, 1/3 of the inventory of the real estate market is going to be the baby boomer market alone. 1/3 of the deals. If you go to Miami and Orlando, it's still around that 1/3. 1/3 of the inventory in Florida alone is going to have something probate related because there's so many baby boomers. There's so many people that are owning property and moving every day. More people are moving to Florida every day. I'm sure somebody would drop a comment in this session that talks about how many people are moving to Florida every day. So just know that this market is coming. You look at 2027 is 15%. Look at the jump to 2037. It's doubling. It doubles up. So this is a huge market to get into right now, and it's a fantastic market. Now, I make sure I put up the probate timing up front about how long probate can take, because I did a probate boot camp about 1.5 years ago, and it was 5 hours, never doing that myself again for 5 hours. But I talked about how long probate can take at the end, and somebody came up to me after and said, how did it go? I said, oh, did you see how long probate took? It took like, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. He said, no, I didn't get to see that. I said, oh, what happened? He said, he left. It was so long. He left. He goes, next time you need to put that in the beginning of the episode, in the beginning of the PowerPoint. I said, perfect. Let me put it in the beginning. And that's why I put it in the beginning, because how many of you, drop it in the comment box now, how many of you have heard probate takes 6 months, 12 months, 1 year, 2 years, 4 years? How many of you? Drop it in. Tell everybody your timing, because I'm just going to explain how the probate timing is the massive misconception in all of this. How long probate can take is crazy. If I told you it can take a matter of days, weeks, a couple of months, it would blow your mind, right? And this is the kind of thing I see on a daily basis. These are my times. These are how fast I've done probates. And when I explain probates being timed, I mean from the time the file is opened to closed, okay? Tampa, 1 week. If I told you probate was done in Tampa in 1 week, you probably are like, what? It's happened. I've done probates in Jacksonville in 2 days. Yes, even during the pandemic, it was 2 days. Done things in Fort Lauderdale in 45 days. Done things in Miami in 8 days. And don't worry, I'm going to give you the nuts and the bolts about probate. We got the juicy drama stories at the end. So you got to stick around. You got to stick around for the juicy drama, right? So Sarasota, 2 weeks, right? No joke. Filed and closed, done. These are probates that the probate either has never been touched, the investor came across it, nobody's been able to solve it, and everybody thinks, oh, now we're going to wait for 6 months. We're going to get away from that deal. If you knew it could take 2 weeks, would you do it? I think your answer would be yes. Highlands County, 3 weeks. Lehigh Acres, everybody knows where Lehigh Acres is. 20 days. I mean, if you knew probate could take 20 days in an area, you would do it. 2 to 4 weeks, you would do it. You would get involved in that niche. This was right when the pandemic hit. Clay County, 1 day. Did something in Clay County in 1 day. Also one in 1 week. Always depends. But now with things have been a little bit slower, it's been more like a week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks. Nonetheless, this is not 6 months. This is not 12 months. Hernando County, 2 hours. Fastest probate I ever did, and that was during the pandemic. I got stories at the end that I'll talk about and make sure we go through. So we have to go through the nuts and the bolts. That's why I love going through this stuff. I don't explain it like a lawyer, and I hope I don't sound like a lawyer because I don't want to sound like a lawyer. I want to make sure it's very simple. What is probate? Somebody owned real estate. They can own a bank account, they can have a car, but they own something and it's in their individual name. It's not in an LLC, it's not in a land trust, but it's in their name. They own it, they die. And upon their death, of course, there could be some kind of heirs. It could be a spouse, children, and we can keep going. We'll make sure we go down that whole lineage line. But in order for that spouse or the children, or whoever the heirs are, to sell that, whoever the true heirs are, they need to go through probate, especially in Florida, in order to transfer the asset over to them so then they can sell the asset. They have now authority. They're on the deed. They're now able to sell that asset and you can close on your deal. It's just the transfer of title from the deceased to the heirs. That's it. That's how simple probate is. Somebody owned real estate, they died. To transfer to the heirs, you need a court process. Court process is probate. And you can't do anything, especially in Florida. Other states have weird things like North Carolina and Texas. I know they have the affidavit of heirs thing. But in Florida, you can't transfer it. You can't sell it. You can't convey it. You can't refinance that property without probate being done. Individual name, they died, no magic language, nothing. You got to have that probate. You can't do a quick claim even before probate. I've had that question so many times about, can you do that quick claim deed before probate? I've seen investors do it before. That could be a strategy that you have. That's all up to what title companies want or what you can do with title, but you need the probate done to transfer it over. And that's why you have to have it done. Then you get the quick claim. Title insurance. That is the name of the game. That is the why. The why behind probate in Florida especially is title insurance. They don't want to take a risk on the heirs ever coming back or somebody coming back and making a claim. So they want to make sure that there's what they call a determination of heirs. So they get deeds from those heirs. So then they can deed out, close and sell the property and they're done. So title insurance wants probates. And we'll talk about the double, triple probates, about how there may not just be one, there could be 2, 3 other probates, but title insurance plays a huge role. These are big questions you have to ask. Who are you in touch with when you come across one? Are you talking to the spouse, the kids, the grandkids, a second cousin removed, a first cousin, a niece, an aunt, an uncle? You have to ask these questions as the people that are seeking this out, that are finding these. Who are you even talking to? If you don't know who you're talking to, you got to back up and go to that step. First step, who are you talking to? Have you even looked at the title? Who's your title company? Right? Go to your favorite title company that can help you figure out, is this going to be a mess? How many judgments are on the property? Is this, how many potential probates? Are there 7 people on title? Is there 1 people on title? Pull title, pull title. I can't explain it any more than that. I'm going to do some crazy videos eventually about pulling title because it's so important before you dive in the deal to find out mortgages. Is it in foreclosure? Is there a tax deed? How many liens? Are there phantom mortgages? What's the legal description? We'll get into all of that also. Is there a will? Huge. We'll talk about that. Spouse, children, who is around? Ask these questions. Very important. Is there a mortgage foreclosure auction? Are we coming across a tax deed sale? Finding that stuff out could be huge for you, because if you knew the tax deed sale was next week, you got to rush and figure out what's going on. Is it going to be worth it? What timing do we have? Are the courts moving things forward? Is it worth your time? Is it worth everybody's time? So finding out if it's on the verge of a foreclosure, a tax deed auction is huge. The questions to ask, I'm just going to drop these questions here. You could do whatever you want, take a picture, but is it the only property? Is it vacant land? Is there commercial property? Ask how many properties. I get these probates once in a while where we found out there was 1 land and then the lady also had like 3 other lots, 4 other lots. So those could be opportunities for you. You may just find that 1 lot she wants to sell. And then of course, what do you get? Oh, by the way. So you may get that also. Mortgage, reverse mortgage, you got to find out what's going on. People will tell you if you ask questions. They'll say if there's a reverse mortgage, raise your red flag if you hear reverse mortgage. Also, is there a will? Is there a trust? Who is alive? These are basic questions, right? Do you hear me talking about anything with law? I haven't said a thing with law. These are just basic questions you can find out that you can show confidence about what's going on. So you know where you're going with it, and they can feel that you know where you're going with it and the right direction you can go in. Where did they die? When did they die, right? Did they die in Florida? Did they die out of the state of Florida? Sometimes that matters as well. What kind of probate we have to do here. Sometimes they die in New York, but they had land here in Florida. Is that hard? No, it's not hard to deal with if the story makes sense and everything lines up, but those could be great deals as well. So don't shy away from those if you find out they died out of state, but they own property here. But these are things that help everybody to find out what's going on. And was that the property they lived and resided, or was it just land? Simple questions you can just ask every day. I put this slide here because this is golden information for you all, where we're hitting the silver tsunami, right? Why is this important? Because as the baby boomers get older, a lot of them are doing a lot of real estate, estate planning, right? The estate planning side of things. And what's in estate planning are power of attorneys. Power of attorneys, especially with probate and real estate, that power of attorney, it's got to allow for a real estate transaction. And you want to make sure that if somebody is using that power of attorney for a real estate transaction, you bring it to the underwriter. You bring it to the title underwriter, because in Florida, the underwriter wants the original POA. But for power of attorneys, it has to allow for a real estate transaction. And if a probate's involved and something's needed to be done using that POA for somebody because they're incompetent or maybe they're in prison, it's got to allow for a probate. So what's the big takeaway here? Read the power of attorney, look at the POA, see what it says, right? Bring it to your favorite title company. Don't assume, don't guess, don't say, oh, we thought we had the power of attorney for 3 months. We thought it was good. Take all the assumptions out, bring it to the title company. Title company will help you communicate with them. They'll bring it to their underwriter, because title insurance, again, the why behind probate, big time in Florida, is title insurance. They don't want to take the risk on heirs coming back. So always find out what's going on, and the POA is huge. And I have a story about that. We'll get there. Probate being needed versus not needed, right? People are blown away by this. If only one person's on the deed and the husband or the wife's not on the deed, but the other one is, and that one dies, you still need probate in Florida. You believe it or not. If they're not on the deed as husband and wife, that's what the tenancy by the entirety is. If they're not there as husband and wife, and there's only one and they die, probate. And the problem is if they have kids also, those kids may have to be involved in the probate as well. So I bet all of you tonight are going to go home and go, who's on my deed? Making sure you and the husband and wife are both on the deed together, because that could be huge, especially in Florida. But if you ever see a situation where they call tenants in common, A, B, C, and D, and one of them dies, A dies, and then let's say the next day B dies, and the next day C dies, you need a probate for A, B, and C. It's crazy. That's called not having any magic language and not preparing the right way. That's when you need probates, when you see those things. That's why I have this up here. But there are other ways where probate doesn't happen. You may not need probate, which all of you probably are going to be like, that's great. If we don't have to do probate, perfect. Ladybird deeds, right? What's ladybird? Retitling. It's a new deed, retitling it for your life with a remainder to the beneficiaries. And you can revoke that ladybird deed before death. If you want to sell the property, you could sell it in whole. They also have a life estate deed, which is not a ladybird deed. These functions avoid probate, right? The life estate deed, if you retitle the property and you name beneficiaries and then you want to sell, all the beneficiaries have to be in agreement. Very different from a ladybird deed. Two things. Revocable, irrevocable trusts. Trusts avoid probate. But if they're poorly drafted and they don't contemplate future events for trustees or beneficiary designations or distributions, it may not avoid another type of court proceeding. We're not getting into that tonight, because you know why? Probate. If we start talking about that, you're going to have Alan Nicoletti talk for another hour about something that's absolutely wild, will blow your mind. Joint tenants with the rights of survivorship. They don't tell you this in law school, but it's called survival of the fittest. Whoever lives the longest gets title to the property, right? If you have A, B, and C, and it has magic language with rights of survivorship, joint tenants with the rights of survivorship, and A and B die, and C still alive, and you approach C, do you need probate? No, not for that. Okay. So there's magic language that can go on deeds that can avoid probate. And the husband and wife tenancy, that's a big one. You could be married for 60 years and you're not on the deed with the husband, and husband dies, probate. It's wild. Do wills avoid probate? This comes up so many times. I'm going to do these crazy videos really soon about all this probate stuff and POAs and all this stuff, because there's so much information. But I love making these videos because it helps people remember and help stick in their mind about these topics. Wills do not avoid probate. They guide where probate goes. Let me say that again. Wills do not avoid probate. They guide where probate goes. It can go to a trust. It can go to people. You got to see what the will says. So don't think that just because you have a will, that's it. Remember, we're talking about Florida here. Other jurisdictions may have other weird things going on, but definitely in Florida, wills do not avoid probate. They got to be examined. You got to look at it. You're not getting away with it. It's not happening. That's a big takeaway. So ask, is there a will? Is there an original will? Because the will say who gets what, who's not getting something. Sometimes it could exclude somebody from the will. And you want to know who that is, because you could be talking to the person that's excluded from the will, and then you find out there is one. So make sure you ask if there's a will. You need the original ink will. Copies are presumed to be revoked and destroyed. And it's, yes, is there a potential way to get it admitted into court? Potentially, but it's going to be expensive and long and complicated. Where's the original ink will? Where is it? Ink, not photocopy. You believe how many times I've had to explain that one? Ink actually pressed in. Where is it? Because getting copies of wills is really, 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 really tough. No will, no problemo. We'll see, right? Intestate, person dies without a will. What happens? Florida creates a will for you by statute. They have in the statutes, it talks about who's next in line to get what, right? Who's getting the next thing? Who's getting the next thing? And it says by statute who's getting it. So they basically, it's not really a actual executed will, but Florida says who's getting what next in the next line, okay? Now, this is hard because I can't do it in person, but I promise you, eventually there's going to be a video on it. It'll probably go viral. It's hard to do because I'm in the studio, but I call this, going through this whole inheritance line in the statute, the probate Macarena. Okay. You're going to see a video on it. So you all will love it. It'll be in different locations. But what's the probate Macarena? It's a simple way to remember who you're looking for if you find these deals. If there's no will, who are you looking for? That's the inheritance line. Those are the people in the next pecking order that you're looking for. And the probate Macarena is the simple, easy way to remember what's happening. So if you saw it, if we were in person, we start at spouse, right? Always start at spouse. In Florida, spouses have huge rights. If there's no spouse, children, you go down, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. If you got none of those, you go parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, okay? If you got none of those, you go brothers and sisters, half-brothers, half-sisters. And if none of those, you go nieces and nephews. And then after that, you go aunts and uncles, and the line can keep going. So if you saw me do like a kind of dance, spouse, down, up, out, down, up, that's the probate Macarena. And it is so easy to remember. If you can do the dance, I'll make sure y'all will see it. It'll all be all over YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. But that's how you're remembering who's next in line. The inheritance line of who's coming after. That's huge. Now, if there's absolutely nobody, eventually you can go to the state of Florida, but that's a whole other topic. That means 0 heirs. Genealogist report is done, and there's absolutely nobody, 0. I don't know if that's happening, but it could happen. So remember when I was talking about you don't have to know everything? You don't. And everybody hears about creditors and newspaper publication. In Florida, there's a 2-year period from the time of death to 2 years. In between that 2 years, all we have to find out is, are there any known creditors? Are there any creditors that the heirs know about? And if we do, they got to be served. They got to be notified of the probate. That's it. Just got to know about that. See, you didn't have to go through a whole book to read about everything with creditors and distribution and payout. No, you just need to know, who are we looking at? How many creditors? Visa, MasterCard, Home Depot. Sometimes the mom, the dad, they paid off all the debts. And sometimes the heirs will say, oh yeah, no, they had everything paid off. And sometimes they'll say, no, mom had a list, and they'll like send me an Excel spreadsheet. It's like 18 different creditors. We just got to know that. We got to notify them. But guess what? Does that matter for what you all are looking for in the real estate? Not really. Does it affect time a little bit? Sure, because we have to notify these creditors. We just have to evaluate who the creditors are if date of death is less than 2 years. Super, super simple. And then, could you get the sale? Is it possible to get the sale through even though we notify these creditors? Yes, it still is possible. So many of you probably have heard, oh, we had to wait 4 months before the court could sign the court orders. Sure, the judge says you have to wait for that 3-4 months before the court orders. That's one thing. But many times the sale can go through and the money's just held in trust. So even though we have to do these formal notice, the newspaper thing, we have to do that kind of stuff, there is a way that the sale can still get through, still get done. The money's held and the deal's not held up. Does that sound good? Can you drop a comment and let me know how good that sounds, that there's a way that you can get the sale through even though you're not waiting that whole 4-month period? There is a way to do it. You just got to know what you're doing with this whole thing. 2 years after date of death, DOD is more than 2 years. Creditors are out. Visa, MasterCard, Comcast in Florida, there's a 2-year, what they call hard bar. Creditors are out. Let's not get cute though, because mortgages, the federal tax liens, the major improvements, they still stick to the property. 10 years, 15 years, that mortgage is not going away. So don't think that 2 years after date of death, ooh, that mortgage is gone. No, it's not. So more than 2 years, probate can even go faster because those major creditors are out. You don't have to go through the newspaper. You don't have to go through the creditor period. Boom. So date of death is 2015. What is that? More than 2 years. Those go faster, even better. Homestead. Why do I talk about homestead, right? Everybody thinks homestead in Florida is the taxes, right? The tax exemption that you can get. But in the world of probate, that is a huge thing for you to know, because if that person lived there, they resided there, they actually intended to be there. Yes, it is protected from many, many creditors, not every creditor, because you got mortgages, major improvements, federal tax liens. But the homestead property is where the deceased lived and resided. And for contract, they all have to be on that contract. And for title, all those heirs have to sign the deeds at the closing. So in order for that property to be sold, the heirs have to all be in agreement, especially at the closing, because they're all going to have to sign deeds. There's no way getting around that, right? So that's why it says must be sold by the beneficiaries, heirs, whoever they are, because you have to have all those heirs in agreement in order to get that deal through and done. That last line about the PR cannot override the sale. Have a buddy investor of mine. He told me that there was a title company. There's 25 beneficiaries, and that they can get the personal representative to sign on behalf of everybody. You need all beneficiaries in a homestead to be in agreement to get that thing done. Why? Title insurance. In the world of homestead says title vests immediately to all the beneficiaries. So when you're asking those questions, you're like, wait a second, that mom didn't claim homestead exemption. That's not the question. Did mom live there? Did she reside there? If she moved away, did she intend to come back? That's homestead. That's something for you to know. Ancillary probate. What in the world is ancillary? Somebody died out of state. Let's pick New York, right? They died in New York. They resided in New York. But back in the 90s, they were on the television and they bought a piece of land and the kids didn't know about it. And then all of a sudden you come across that piece of land and you're like, wait a second, what do we do? This person died out of state. Is that going to be a longer process? Is that going to be a harder process? No, because if they didn't even have anything done in that state, New York, there's a way to get the probate done here in Florida. And ancillary, meaning basically secondary probate, there's a way to do the probate here in Florida without even having to even involve New York. So I learned that on a deal with Arizona. we were trying to get a lawyer to be involved on the Arizona probate. Never got back to anybody. Never got back to me. I thought that was terrible. But you know what? At the end of the day, we found a way to get the probate done in Florida without even involving the other state. So when you're asking me, Al, what's the point of this? These things don't have to be hard. Don't shy away from this stuff. Don't shy away from probates that look like potentially hard, and then you refer it out to somebody or you drop the deal. Always evaluate what's going on and see if the deal makes sense, money-wise, time-wise, for your buyers, everything. There could be a solution to these problems, and that's why probate is absolutely amazing. Petitioner, personal representative. People ask me, they call me, they go, who should I contact? Should I contact the personal representative? There doesn't always have to be a personal representative. 30%, 20% of the deal probates in Florida even involve a personal representative. That's because these probates could be summary administrations, just involving the heirs, right? Nothing crazy. One house, homestead property, boom. That's it. No personal representative involved. You don't always need one. It could just be a petitioner. So when you're asking who to reach out to, find the heirs. That's who you're finding. That's who you're reaching out to. Is there any difference in reverse mortgages and mortgage foreclosures? Really, there's not a lot of difference, except for the fact that the reverse mortgage is going to probably have a way higher payoff, and you probably can't do any sub-twos on those mortgages, on the reverse mortgages, because the reverse mortgage company is really giving about 6 months, it could be 3 months, maybe a year, for those heirs to pay off the note, pay off that debt that is owed. And so the real difference with it is that payoff, and reverse mortgages could be really nasty. So you've got to make sure you get the payoff. And some of these reverse mortgage companies will not give you the payoff sometimes, unless the probate's done, or maybe they won't even give it to you at all. They can be really bad. So make sure you're careful with those reverse mortgages. Double, triple probates. Why do I talk about double, triple probates? Sometimes I get people asking me, when I go through a whole analysis, I'll say, Mom died in 2000. She had 4 kids. One of them died in 2004. That kid died and then had a surviving spouse who died in 2010. And then that surviving spouse died in 2010 and had 2 children. And then that one died in 2015. And they're like, oh, so it's just one probate. And I'm like, no, that's not just one probate. You're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4 probates there. So when I talk about double, triple probates and a probate happening after each one, it's because somebody died, they owned an asset, the asset went to those kids, and when that kid died after, they had an asset of mom. So then their asset now needs to be probated to their true heirs. Don't shy away from those. Just know that when you're dealing with not just one probate, but multiple probates, there's a whole process to it. So they could be knocked out. Double, triple probates, 5 probates, working on one right now with 6 probates. So don't necessarily shy away from it. But if you see post-deceased where they died after, you're looking at more probates. If the heirs of mom, one of them dies before mom, it's called pre-deceased. And if that happens when they pre-deceased in Florida, it drops straight down to their lineal descendants. You don't need a probate, but you got to find out who their lineal descendants are. And if there's none, that interest goes away. It's crazy stuff, like crazy that you may see these in your deals. I got one right now where there's going to be 4 probates, and the investors got to run the numbers and make sure, can this be done? You know, how expensive is this going to be? How much time when my buyers, I'm trying to line up the buyers, what are the buyers going to think? Slow it down, reevaluate. Just know if there's multiple probates, you got to think about the numbers and everything involved. Probate real estate contract. Look, there's no such thing as a probate real estate contract. In Florida, you got the FAR bar stuff. You have all the heirs on the contract. Title insurance is going to want all the heirs to execute deeds. So whatever you're using, go forward. And, you know, if you have it reviewed by some contract attorney that likes reviewing contracts, that's not me. I don't review contracts or contract review. But there's not really a contract for probate. It's just, if you get all the heirs, have that contract review by somebody that loves doing those contract reviews. Title insurance companies, though, want deeds signed, especially it's homestead property. So just know that there's no such thing as a probate contract. Making an offer. Hey, look, if you really want to put something there and say, look, I want to make sure my buyer knows, I want to make sure the title company knows that closing subject to probate court orders, that's great. As long as you've told people that there's a probate involved, some realtors get really ticked off when they don't know that their buyers didn't know that there's a probate involved. So having something like that in the contract could be good. Closing subject to probate court orders. Great. At least everybody's aware of what's going on. No heirs. I got this question in a seminar in Tampa one time. They said, hey, like right in the beginning, they're like, what happens if there's no heirs? Now what, right? You have tools and resources. There's people around. You got ForeclosuresDaily.com with their skip tracing companies, with PIs that are around in the state of Florida, PIs all over the country. You have private investigators. You can get with them. They can be pricey and expensive, right? Companies that perform heir searches, right? You can use the white pages. You can use some of the people search stuff, but sometimes it gets really complicated and tricky. But if there's no heirs, you got to be careful. There's usually always an heir. Don't think that there's no heirs automatically, because there usually is an heir, right? So, I mean, I know some companies like Tampa Process LLC that they've done some incredible work as well. Provest is out there doing heir searches. There's just other companies that you can tap into, but definitely get with the ForeclosuresDaily.com team for things that happen with skip tracing and stuff, and a genealogist, right? If it gets so deep in the deal, maybe you need a genealogist, and there's people out there that do probate genealogy. So don't think that the deal's necessarily dead when you do the whole probate Macarena and you can't find anybody, because there are resources out there that you can find. And that's why getting with people like Tangi and the ForeclosuresDaily.com team can be really, really good. So timeline approach. I get these questions. When's the best timeline to approach the estate, right? It's all up to when your timing is. I've heard 2 months. I've heard 3 months. I've heard 6 months. Whenever people it went out for a second. When people are going through these trying times, you got to time them the way you want to time them. You have to do trial and error. There's not going to be any particular way that it's going to work for each person. You just got to try. You just have to figure out what's going to be the best method. Steps for you. I've gone through the steps. Who are you in touch with? What's happening? Is there a mortgage foreclosure? Find out these basic things. Rewind the whole thing at the end. Go through the basic steps of finding out who the kids are. What's the line? Do the probate Macarena. Is it their primary residence? Find out these questions. Wills, no will, trust. How's the property titled? Get with your favorite title company. Those are really big steps that you could take right now today. And how does it affect the title process? In Florida, probate's got to be done. The probate has to be done. Title insurance is not going to issue a policy, so be careful about that. You got to get the probate done. They won't do anything. Cost-effective solutions for low-price vacant land. Look, those deals are tough, right? So everybody's focusing on single-family homes, but I know there's a huge niche in this market for land. There's so many land investors, right? And you get those land investors and they're like $10,000 deals, $5,000 deals. How do you fit those numbers? How do you squeeze all those numbers? It's tight. The numbers got to work. Somebody called me today, a land deal, $3,000. You know, what are you flipping out for? $5,000. Those are really tight numbers. You got to run your numbers. There's really not any exact cost-effective solution. You just got to find out from the probate attorney what's happening. And if you have weird land things, just be aware you're probably going to get into the world of the ancillary, the one where they're in New York, but they own a little piece of land here. And you got to know a little bit more about some of these copies and exemplified copies, because they may have wills in courts up in the other states. So just little things you have to know. You don't have to know everything. Again, you don't have to know everything. I know I talk really fast. I get through a lot because I want to give you so much information that could be so useful. You could watch this 10 times and pick up things you didn't know on the 9th time. Title commitments are big. They tell you who's on the property, the examination, the legal description, how many probates are needed. Get with your favorite title company. Those are huge. Title companies can be your best friend. And pulling title with Old Republic, Alliance, Stewart, huge things that you can do to find out how many probates are needed. What's the full story? It's the bottom line examination to title. Big, big stuff. When do you run for the hills? Look, the idea is that you got to make sure the deal works for everybody. Buyer, seller, end buyer. I don't know. Maybe you're doing triple close. Title company, lawyer. It's got to work for everybody. And if the numbers make sense and the deal makes sense, great. If it doesn't, that's just the way it rolls, right? So you got to do a breakdown, find out what everybody's getting, find out what the sellers are getting. The deal, it has to make sense for everybody involved. So when do you run for the hills? When it all doesn't work, right? When it doesn't work for one of the pieces, it may not work for everybody. So make sure you check that all out. Of course, I told you, for all of you sticking around, I got stories, right? So I told you all the nuts and the bolts. Now I get to tell you some of the crazy stories I've been through, right? So I'm going to make sure we get through these crazy stories, the juicy probate drama that I've seen, especially in the last year, this year, the years before. Crazy, crazy stuff. So you ready? Because we're going to dive in on some of the drama. So the crazy one I had was the double baby mama, right? You're thinking, what's the double baby mama? So guy dies. He has no spouse, no will, right? But he had two girlfriends, and the girlfriends, he had kids with both of them. And it was crazy because he wasn't married to either one of them. No will, nothing. And believe it or not, you see, I said easy probate there. It actually was. There was an investor. It was a little lot of land. There were 4 minor kids. And in Florida, the fun fact about minors is that if each minor is to expect to inherit less than 15,000, you don't need a guardianship for that money for those. So that's a huge thing, because people hear guardianship and go away. Like, I hear guardianship, don't do that, right? I don't get into that stuff. But guardianship can be avoided if the minors get less than $15,000 each. And in this deal, there were 4 of them, simple lot. They got it. Both moms were on board. That's why I called it the double baby mama. It was crazy. It was they got along. It was great. It got done. They were super happy. The deal done in 3 weeks, timing wise. Boom. The young spring chicken. This was nuts. This was the tale of incompetence and competence. I connected with an investor in the middle of June 2020. He heard about me. I don't know how. I'm all over the place. I'm the internet sensation. So he found me. He said, hey, let you know when something comes up. 9 months later, something came up. And he said, hey, there's this file that's been with this title company, attorney title company, and they haven't done anything on the file in 6 months. 6 months, haven't done anything. They've been quoting on deeds. They've been quoting on the probate. They've been quoting galore. And they haven't done anything. I said, well, how complicated is it? He goes, there's 2 kids. That's it. 2 kids. How complicated is that? Right? That's not 6 probates. They're both alive. 2 kids alive. I said, okay. One of the kids reached out, said, look, Al, we want to get this thing done. We wanted to get it over with. Great. They signed me up. We filed it on a Thursday. I got a case number in 5 minutes. And that same day on Thursday, 2.5 hours later, I got the probate court orders, right? The tale of competence and incompetence. Somebody held on to it for 6 months and did nothing. I had it for myself in 2 hours done. Small county land deal, crazy. 2 hours, 2 hours. The ever. What does that mean, right? So when you get those beneficiaries that say, oh, I'm the only one left, red flag, red flag. I'm the only one surviving, red flag. You have to find out how many kids, when mom died, how many kids ever lifetime, right? You got to ask these people like 3 times. So in this scenario, somebody died, and when they died, they had no will, no spouse, no children, no grandchildren, no parents, no grandparents, but they had 3 brothers and sisters. And at the time, that's all that was known. 3 brothers and sisters ever, right? So there was an issue with the death certificate, issue with the homestead. Okay, no problem. It got resolved. 2 days before we get the court order, one of the brothers calls me and says, Mr. Nicoletti, we have a question for you. What about the 3 brothers and sisters that died before sister? And I'm like, wait a second. What happened to ever? Oh, well, 3 of them died before. One of them had 1 kid. Another had 2 kids, another 1 kid. And the last one had 5 children, right? Homestead property of the sister. Homestead. So what are we looking at? We're looking at almost 10 heirs. 10 heirs in one deal, right? And it was homestead. They all had a sign. So you better believe I came in the office on a Saturday. I sat there for 5 hours, got the whole thing done. It was crazy, crazy story. 10 heirs, homestead, but that's the big thing. I think got closed in 2.5 months. Not from me, but the title work, 2.5 months. But that's the story where we learned, and we are all learning together about ever, lifetime, ever, not surviving, ever. You all know now. The Cuban probate crisis. This was a crazy deal, right? This was a deal where it was about to go to tax deed. There was an heir missing, and it was non-homestead property. And one of the heirs was an heir that was not of the husband and the wife. It was crazy, and we filed it on like a Friday. And we got a case number on a Monday. We got the hearing on a Tuesday, and the same day we got the court order. And right before the tax deed, the investor was able to salvage the deal and pay off the taxes. And we were missing one heir. But the key here, it was non-homestead. There was a little bit of maneuvering going on. But the idea is that there was a missing heir, a looming tax deed, and we still got it done. Tale of 10 heirs. I have stories for days. I could keep going on and on about these. I had one, mom died, 7 kids ever. 7 kids. 2 of them died before mom. And of the 2, one of them had 2 kids and the other had 3 kids. Homestead property. What did we learn with homestead? All of them on contract, all of them at the closing have to sign deeds. Well, they were all in agreement. But what the problem was of the 5 that were on mom's line, right? One of them was incompetent and then the other was in prison. Well, let's take a little application. What did we learn in the beginning of the presentation? What are we thinking of right now? Power of attorneys. So this is the deal where I learned about the power of attorneys big time. Where are the power of attorneys? Are the original power of attorneys? Bring them to the title insurance underwriter now. Get them analyzed now. So they brought it to the title underwriter. Title underwriter approved the power of attorneys. They allowed for a real estate transaction. They allowed for a probate to be done. And what do you know? Everybody signed, even the person that was the agent for the power of attorney. Everybody signed, got the probate done. Miami, I think it was like 8 days. That's the one that was 8 days. 10 heirs though. 10 heirs still. 8 days, filed and closed. I have stories. Tale of 10 heirs, 7 heirs. It was a land deal. There was the guy died out of state, and he owned a lot here in Florida. And when you broke the whole probate down, when you saw everything, there were 7 heirs. How many of you would have shied away from 10 heirs? I bet there's people that would have shied away from that. These can be good deals, right? It was a land deal. It was still an ancillary, but it still got done. It was done in 3 weeks. So just because there were 7 heirs, it don't shy away from those kinds of things. They could get done, and it was an out-of-state probate, right? It was somebody, I don't remember what state it was, but they were out of state. They own the land, 7 heirs. All 7 signed the deeds at the closing and got the whole deal done. It was incredible, amazing stuff. The double baby mama 2.0. It happened again. The whole double baby mama thing happened again, right? What happened? There was a surviving spouse and there were minor children. And how many of you would have shied away from that again, right? How many of you think the minors, and what do we do? How do we solve it? Don't necessarily run away from those situations if you see minors involved. Yes, if it starts going over that $15,000 threshold, be careful, because now you're starting to talk about guardianships and you're starting to talk about a lot of money. But just know that it can happen where there's minors involved in on the deal, and you got to be careful. Courts are very careful with minors. So don't think those things are fast and quick and 2-day specials, right? Those can be crazy. But they were all minors. There were 2 moms all over again. And you know what? It got done in 1 week. 1 week. Date of death was more than 2 years. Gone, done. And it got done in 1 week. It happened. It's crazy. 1 deal, 6 probates. Got that right now. There were 3 dead on title. right? The title commitment came back, said 3, but when we analyzed the whole thing, we realized there were 6 probates, right? And you got to do your numbers. You got to do your numbers on what that's going to be. Am I going to shy away from that? Am I going to shy away from 6 probates? No, I want to see what's going on. This deal, this is possible. This is actually a doable deal. 6 probates. People will be like, what? I don't even want to do 1. And then people hear that I'm doing 6 probates. They're like, what are you on? What are you doing? Right? It's crazy stuff, but it doesn't have to be hard when you can analyze the tree and analyze the line. Those things can be done. You got to slow it down, slow the roll, and really evaluate what's happening. Do a full analysis. 6 probates, not going to be that hard. And then there was one I had with half sisters, right? All half sisters. Guy dies, has a child with like 5 different women, 1 child each with 5 different women, half sisters. You're like, where did we even get with the half sisters? That's when I was doing the probate Macarena, right? Spouse, children, go up. And when we went out, they had no brothers and sisters, but they had all half sisters, and they all were on board. One of them pre-deceased or post-deceased, and they had children. But you know what? One property, it got done. There was a crazy will situation. It was wild. It was on notebook paper. It was wild, but it still got done. These deals are possible. Would you shy away from a half sister situation? Who knows? Sometimes these deals have wills. They're not properly signed, right? And you got to maneuver and slow the roll, because in the world that I see so much. I see different things. I see things from 6 probates to half sisters to double baby mamas. It's wild. Still got done. This was something that came up recently, the super slow trot. There was 5 beneficiaries. Only 1 started everything and was the only one that participated. And we had to do formal notice to every beneficiary, right? It was an ancillary. It was out of state. It took 10 months for that out of state probate to even get to me. And eventually we got done. I think it took a couple of months because we had to do formal notice. But 5 beneficiaries, they were not on board. 4 of them were not. They didn't even respond. It's not that they weren't on board. They just didn't even respond. But only 1 was on board. Took 18 months. How many of you would stick around for 18 months if you knew the deal was worth it, right? If you knew that deal was going to be worth it and there was going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, you would stick around. But you're probably not wanting to stick around for probates that are just not going anywhere. They're not moving anywhere. Took 18 months, but still got done. It was really crazy. I see probates from time to time where the probate started, the attorney in halfway wanted payment and stopped doing all the work. This was crazy too. And they withdrew from representation. Probate never finished. We see those from time to time. It's wild, some of the things that I see in the probate world, but that's where those are opportunities for you all. Those could be opportunities that you would shy away from, but now you've seen all of these stories and you're like, wait a second, we're missing out on so many deals that we could go through. So many. Seen Taiwanese probates, same name translation, crazy things. That's called pulling title, making sure that you have the right people, the right title work, making sure the title commitment's all the same. I can go on and on. I had stories. I see Tangi there. I could go on and on about all these stories. The Thorn one, where it was a double probate. The deed they alleged was wrong. Figured it out. 3 months later, got it done. Wild stuff. So at the end of the day, we know a probate attorney. We know the best one. He can wait until the closing to get paid. He gets them done pretty efficiently, right? And they gotta initially reach out. And his name's Nicoletti, right? That's the whole idea. Waiting until the closing to get paid is huge. And I know how much that benefits everybody. And best ways to find leads, ForeclosuresDaily.com. Liz Pendens, they got the pre-foreclosures. Get with Tangi and everybody. Angela, the whole team. ForeclosuresDaily.com is huge. Tax delinquencies, tax deed sales are leads, foreclosure auction sale dates, code violations. These could be great things. Where can you find them? Inheritance leads, divorce leads. You never know. Somebody may die in those situations. Pre-probate, probate, foreclosure, distressed. You never know where you find a probate lead. Don't think that you're missing things, or just get into leads. Just find them, make it happen, do it. make that stuff work. Mailers, cold call. I see her. Tangi, this stuff's amazing. I just want to make sure I get through it. Everybody's got to bring confidence, surrounding yourself with resources, be authentic, provide value, show people the money. They want to do it. And just tell them we make it smooth. We make it easy. We make it understandable. And that's the idea. And does Al Nicoletti go anywhere in Florida? Anywhere in Florida. Yes. From Key West to Pensacola. And these are my practice areas that I do: probate, trust administration, the weird and the different. The weird and the different in Florida. Find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram, find me on YouTube. I'm everywhere. I do videos all the time. And thank you so much again to ForeclosuresDaily.com. Check out the show. You got to check it out. Thank you so much, Tangi, ForeclosuresDaily.com. So much information. So thank you again for being on.
So Al, you did a great job. Okay. I loved all the content that you put in there about everything. That's awesome. I think you may have scared a few people on the pre-probate thing. They're not difficult like that typically. Those are your harder cases that Al was talking about, guys. Most of the pre-probate and probates are a breeze. They go through really quick.
Some of these can be a matter of weeks to a couple of days to a month or two. They don't have to be that bad.
Yeah, so typically your average probate and pre-probate are very, very quick. The stories that Al was talking about with multi-probates, a bunch of different probates, those are typically usually the rougher cases. But in general, the pre-probates are a very quick process, guys. So I know a couple of you made a couple of comments that you're kind of scared and stuff now, but no, he was talking about some intricate cases, guys, not your typical average probates, right, Al?
No, these are probates that it doesn't happen all the time. But when it does occur, you're at least prepared to have the knowledge to know what you're getting into. Pre-probate can be great. They could be one. I had one today. Guy died, 2 kids, done. So no, that's the norm.
Usually. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but these are just little nuts and bolts to know, just in case you run across it. People are surprised, like, how do we run our numbers? What are we looking for? They're just things to help you see the bigger picture of what probate can be, but they could be great deals.
Well, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to my screen, but I do want you to reshare yours in just a minute with your contact information, Al. But I want to show everybody the special pricing and stuff that we're going to be giving everybody. And, you know, anybody that buys any leads from us between now and Friday, just for seeing us, Al, on this webinar, they are going to get a free county. So let me go ahead and go back to my slides here. I'm going to go ahead and share this. So basically it's a buy one county, get one free at the discounted rate. And usually when we do the BOGOs, Al, it's typically on the list price, not the discounted rate. So this is something a little special we're doing for this. Guys, so if you're interested in signing up for the probate, pre-probate, inheritance, divorce, co-violation, eviction, any of those leads, but I do recommend highly probate and pre-probate. You do get a free county if you do it by Friday, and it's typically 50% off. Take a picture of these slides because I am going to put Al's slide back up in just a moment here. So do take a picture of this. So we do recommend that you buy at least the 6 month or the year. And that free county is only on the 6 month and the year. We're not going to give you a free county if you're only going to commit to 12 weeks, because then you're going to have to make a decision in 10 weeks or not, whether you want to renew. And that's just too soon. You know, you don't want to rush yourself when you're investing, and you want to give yourself time to make a decision. So we do recommend 6 months for $999. It saves you $200. Or the biggest bang for your buck is the whole entire year. It saves you $650. You can get the whole year for $599 or $1,750. And we will give you that free county if you sign up by Friday. So take a picture of this slide, mention that you saw me and Al on this webinar, and you will get a free county if you sign up for the 6 month or the year by Friday. Let's go ahead and put your slide back up, Al.
You got it.
You went through your information with Instagram and stuff so quick. So if you don't mind, would you share that real quick and then go back to the other one?
Sure thing.
I want people to be able to take a picture of the actual slide. So go ahead and show that again.
Let me go back here
Two
for
before,
a
I
second.
think it was 2 before.
There I am. You can take a picture of that.
Right, there you go. So leave that up for a second. Guys, take a picture of that, because those are different ways that you can connect with Al. Facebook, you know, Instagram, YouTube. He has weekly webinars, you know, so Al talks about different stuff all the time, right, on your weekly webinars?
Monthly webinars, but yeah. If I did it every week, it'd be crazy.
Well, it says weekly down here.
Well, I have stuff that are posted every week. Yes. I mean, I'm posting things weekly. I have walk and talk videos. I have different content, micro content. So tons of stuff that are coming out all the time.
Okay. Well, so guys, I hope you took a picture of that, because we're going to go to Al's contact screen to where you can actually contact him. What's cool about Al is, you know, who's able to text an attorney, right, and actually get a response back. That doesn't happen, and it's not because Al's not busy, because this guy's buried, which is why it's taken once a year we get him on here. So I think, you know, 6 months ago or a year ago we had him on here, and we have to fight for spots to get him on. So you know, Al's very busy, and I think he works all the time. Like, I could message Al at 9 o'clock at night and the guy's working. I don't care when it is. On the weekends, you name it, he's working. So that's all he does. Hopefully that'll change for you soon, Al. But I feel like you're just making yourself busier.
I am. It's growing. It's growing fast because probate's easy.
Yeah. So let's open it up to Q&A. We got about 15 minutes. Jill says, would like the information on skip tracing. And Jill, we could give that to you if you're a client of Foreclosures Daily. If you are a client of Foreclosures Daily, we can give that to you if you are a client. And I'm typing this just in case, you know, she stepped away or she comes back and she sees it. But if you're a client of Foreclosures Daily, we give you the skip tracing services. You do get it with your bonuses automatically. We email it to you. This person says, I tried mailing to probates and found that they're upset. And a lot of people are doing the same thing. You know, they're upset because you're talking about buying a deceased person's property. Here's the thing. It's all on you on what you're saying in your marketing. If you're talking about their situation, you know, that may be why they're upset. So you want to send very generic marketing. You know, hey, I understand there may be a property for sale. If you do have property for sale, I'd like to buy your property. You know, I can close fast, cash, as is, in less than 30 days. Or just simple things like, you know, I'm interested in purchasing some properties in a few select area, and yours is one of them. If you are selling your property or you know anybody in the area who is, please don't, you know, please call. You know, so basic things like that are good. So if you want to go ahead and market generically, you probably won't have as many angry phone calls. So hopefully that will help your situation. Reach out to me, TNG@ForeclosuresDaily.com. If I didn't answer your question the way it needed to be answered, or you have any additional questions in reference to that. If you are already doing generic marketing and you're still getting screamed at, there's really not much we can do about that. It doesn't happen all the time, but every now and again, you know, one bad apple will ruin it for the tree. Okay, so here's a scenario, Al. Spoke with a seller. The property is owned by his stepfather and mother. Stepfather passed away a couple of years ago, and his mother has dementia. He has power of attorney. He would like to sell the vacant property. What is the process? And does he have to go through probate, or does this just get cleared up through title?
So one of the questions you have to find out, what state is it? If it's Florida, one of the big things you want to do is run title. Make sure how is title flowing, owned by stepfather and mother. Did they own it together? How is it titled? And then the other thing is, what's the power of attorney like? You know, making sure that that power of attorney is brought to the underwriter, and the underwriter could approve it for closings. And they got to make sure that finding out who the heirs are also is really important, to make sure that they're not trying to use that power of attorney to their advantage. Find out who all the heirs are, what's going on, and taking it step by step that way first. Seeing if title insurance even approves that power of attorney is a big, big first step.
Okay, well, thank you. I asked if they were in Florida. Another person wants to know if you do probate in Florida or Texas, and we talked about that earlier. He's only in Florida. Do you know an attorney in Texas, Al?
Offhand, I don't. I know there's a great group, the Hive Mind. They know attorneys down in that Texas area that are wildly popular. So,
what's it called?
Yeah.
What is it called, Al?
The Hive Mind. They're a CRM, real estate CRM. So they have a huge network that they're all in Texas. A lot of land investors in Texas, and so they have a network down there. They could probably help.
Okay. Don't you have to give the potential creditors time to make claims against the estate? This takes more than 2 days in California.
We're in Florida.
Yeah,
so Florida is different than California.
Mm-hmm.
But in Florida, it really depends, because if date of death is less than 2 years, really ultimate question is, are they aware of any known or ascertainable creditors. And if they don't know of any and they're willing to sign off on it, then that's on them. But you don't have to really always go through that crazy process. Now, if the asset's over a certain value, so let's say you find land to $100,000 and the date of death is less than 2 years, then you got to go through that whole newspaper publication process. So it very much depends, fact specific on each probate on what's happening.
Can you have heirs sign off their ownership to other heirs to limit the amount of signings at closings?
Up to the title company, but I've seen it once the probate's done. Technically, once the probate's done, if they then wanted to do a quick claim, they potentially could do that. It's up to how title flows, if title insurance even approves something like that. I've heard of people doing that at the closing.
Good. In California, if the PR has letters, the PR can sell the property during the probate administration process before the close of probate?
California is different in my world, but in the world of Florida, we see a lot of probates that are just one house, no personal representative, no executor, 4 kids, they're all on board, they sign, boom, done. Title insurance needs everybody to sign that stuff. You can't, for homestead property, you just can't get around it.
So I have a lead that all of the original heirs have died and none of their heirs want to do anything to help with the AOHs. There is also no disinterested parties that are connected with the original owner to start the AOAs from the top down. What would you suggest to do in this situation?
If all those people are deceased, you got to find out who the heirs of them are probably first, because if they're HOA or some kind of entity, they're going to want some kind of heir to deal with with resolving that kind of stuff. So you really got to find somebody in that lineage, potentially as many people as you can, to find out who's around, what's around, and whether they have the authority to help figure out that situation.
Okay, another person was asking if this is going to be a replay, and if you go to our YouTube tomorrow, there'll be a replay of this whole webinar so you guys can rewatch it if you missed anything or you got cut short or anything. In California, the probate purchase agreement is required to purchase a probate property, she says. Mark says, I mean.
Gotcha.
They were just saying, just FYI, I guess. Thank you for providing the information regarding probates. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. Could you provide referrals for an attorney that closes probate deals in Atlanta? I think you do know somebody in Georgia, don't you, Al?
Yeah, I don't have the contact info. I think I talked about it on another episode that we had.
It was.
Yeah, her name's Ashley Duell. I think she works at Meidman Freeman, but Ashley Duell, she's in, I think she's in the Atlanta area.
How do you spell her last name?
Duel.
Okay, gotcha. And they can look her up. What should we budget pre-probates? What should we budget for pre-probate depending on heirs? Question mark.
You got to look at what's happening first. I mean, if you're talking about simple probates, maybe 2,500 to 3,000 a pop, each one. But if they start getting more complicated, then it gets more expensive. You gotta look at what's going on first. Not every probate is the same price because there could be weird things going on. But if something's simple, one probate, straightforward, you could be looking at somewhere 2,500 to 3,000.
That's typical, about $2,500. Absolutely. Does the heir need probate approval to sell a property if they're now on the deed? She's in Connecticut.
Well, in order to sell that, they're going to have to sign a deed. So if we're looking at Florida, and they want to sell that property, they're going to have to sign that deed.
Yeah. I just wonder why you talked about homestead. Are there different homestead types?
Where'd you see that one?
Allison Torba, the top.
Well, the idea about homestead is it matters for Florida, because if that's where the person lived and resided, in the theory of homestead, the title shifts to those heirs, the true heirs who are there. That means that title insurance is going to want deeds from everybody. Homestead's very sacred in Florida, so title insurance wants the deeds from everybody. So each state could be different, but in Florida, it's just Did they live there? Did they reside there? Texas could have something different. North Carolina, I don't know if it's in North Carolina. It could be something different. But the key takeaway for real estate is title insurance plays a big role if it's homestead property.
Okay. Do you have a referral for Pennsylvania?
Not offhand.
Now, Al, I know we talked about this a couple webinars ago. People really seem to want referrals from you for other areas, and you were going to get some sort of a Rolodex together for us so that sometimes when you do a webinar, we could have some information out there. Maybe you could have a screen. One of your slides could show the different states and maybe a referral for an attorney. Maybe that's something we could do in the future.
Eventually, I'm going to make that Rolodex.
Cool. Do you have problems with conflict of interest by being the attorney, but also profiting from an assignment, for example?
I'm not profiting from any assignment. I'm just doing the probate. That's it. Transferring the title, only on the probate side, not involved on the real estate side. The heirs are retaining me to do the probate, and that is it. We're done.
Basically, Al is just doing the probate, guys.
That's
he's not an investor. He's not investing in properties. He's not, yes, you're contacting him to work with you on this, but he's doing it for the heirs. He's,
that's it.
He's just being, you're just basically referring an attorney to them. And if you want to put it down, there's certain things that are involved to start Al's process. What do you call them, Al?
What's that, Tangi?
There's certain things involved in you starting the probate process. Do you call them fees, or what do you call them?
Cost. As long as they have the cost, that's the minimal cost up front.
Yeah, there's a small minimal cost up front for Al to start the probate process for you, but that's just what he has to charge to start the probates, period. The rest is not collected until closing, right, Al?
Right. I can wait until the closing to get attorney's fees.
Okay. So in Texas, can we do an AOH to go around probate? Or once it's in probate, does it need to finish that first?
That part I don't know, because I am not attorney in Texas, so I do not know the answer to that.
Right, guys, if these are different states, he's not going to be able to answer those questions. This guy's in California. If the PR we already answered that one. So I'm one of the 9 heirs in the probate. Okay, this guy says, I'm one of the 9 heirs in the probate process where dad didn't leave will. Stepmother had letters of administration. He's California.
Different state.
Different state. If an attorney has a probate case and is taking a long time, seem difficult, how do we expedite the process? Because they've already got an attorney and potentially use your service, Al.
It's always up to the heirs what they want to do. Of course, they're the client with that attorney, so they should probably be getting with that attorney to find out what's going on, why is it taking so long. But eventually, if they all of a sudden were like, look, we're done with this, they can choose if they wanted to leave that attorney and go somewhere else. They can voluntarily choose that. But of course, they got to find out, do they owe any attorney's fees to that attorney? What's that bill going to look like? So there's a lot of little factors that go into that, but the heirs can choose where they want to go.
Okay, we are running out of time to answer questions, so we'll get a couple more. Where do you find the prior title company? Also, do easements show up in the land records?
Where do you find I have no idea that one.
Sorry, we can't answer your question, Ann. Maybe you could send it in a different way and ask Al at one of his contact information. Let me see here, but this person says it's in Texas. We can't help you there. I just wonder why. Okay, we already got that answered. Is each service probate, pre-probate, inheritance $9.99 per county? Yes, each service is $999. So if you want probate, pre-probate, it's going to be $1,998 to get both. To answer your question, do you have a referral for Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? We already answered that. Sorry, Al, I guess I should have been dismissing those. Who pays typically your upfront fees? The investor or the people? You know what? And maybe I'm wrong, Al, but I always tell my people, listen, you can hire Al, or you can have Al do the probate, and you can pay him upfront fees, and then the rest can be paid at closing, and you can actually take it out of the person's cut. Because like if you offer to buy the property for $80,000, and let's say Al charges you $2,500 in the end, you can just give him $77,500 for the property, because you're taking the $2,500 out of their cut. You can work that out with your person any way you want to, right, Al? I mean, somebody just has to pay you, right?
At the end of the day, if there's a probate and it's got to get paid, it doesn't matter where it's coming from as long as the client consents to it.
Okay, I'm wondering about homestead. It seems like the probate homestead exemption in Arizona are, well, you're in Arizona. We can't help you there, right, Al?
Okay, I'm not in Arizona, but there's actually a good Arizona attorney, Dana Riles. A lot of people go to Dana. He does a lot of stuff for some of the investors. So he's in Arizona. I think he's investor friendly. So you may want to get with him.
How do you spell Dana's last name?
Riles. I think it's Rilus.
Okay, I did find the heirs of the heirs. They don't want to deal with any paperwork. My question is where to begin if the owner's heirs are dead and heirs don't want to do paperwork and help out? We know who the heirs are, but there was no probate or will or AOH done for the original owner. Just not sure where to start since there's no one that knows the original owner personally.
Yeah, I'd say I don't know. I don't know where Dylan is. I don't know if he's like in Florida or Texas or where it is. Those are the kinds of situations they got to be like, there's got to be more to the story and fully evaluated. So, Dylan, depending on what state you're in, and if you're not in Florida, definitely getting with somebody that's out of state, whether it's Texas, whether it's California, somebody that's on the attorney title side to help figure out if there's something that's got to be done, because Florida's a lot different than some of these other states with probates. I know in Texas, they had that whole affidavits of heirs thing. North Carolina, it's different. So depending on what state you're in, hard to say where things are at with your particular situation that you're going through. But if you are in Texas or something, just let me know. Maybe we can help find you somebody that's over there.
Okay. So, Al, that was pretty much our last question. I think he might be in Texas, but either way, I don't believe it was in Florida, but any lingering questions you guys that you have, you can always reach out to Al. He's given you his phone number here, and he's also given you his email, and he also give you his website. So you have multiple ways to reach Al. You can also follow him on Instagram, Facebook. He's all over the place. Internet presentation everywhere, right?
There you go.
So,
Everywhere.
Al, thank you so much for doing this webinar with us tonight. We really appreciate you. You had a great audience, and it was a great talk. And we're going to go ahead and end the meeting now. If you guys have any questions you want to ask, reach out to Al or me, Tangi at ForeclosuresDaily.com. And we appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Tangi. And thank you so much to the ForeclosuresDaily.com team. You all are awesome.
Thank you. Bye.